All right, welcome back. I'm David Knight, and joining me in studio right now is Larry Pinckney and Darren McBreen. Glad to have you guys here. Good to see you in person. I think this is the first time, well, second time we've met. Second time we've met. We want to talk about prison reform because we had these amazing videos that when I saw these things really touched my heart. To see Alice Johnson, to see her released from video. As a matter of fact, from prison, we've got the video of it. Let's play the video of her as she goes running to her family. Just take a look at this video here. So happy to get out of jail and look at this.
All right, so we are going to hear from Dan. You see there Ms. Johnson
run.
being reunited with her friends and her family. They made that trip to meet her earlier this afternoon.
Wow.
We heard this was going to happen. Took a couple of hours or so for some of the logistics to be worked out, but then she was released just a few minutes ago.
All right, and then let's play what she actually had to say to the people there. Let's run video clip number 1 because it's very touching what she had to say. Here's Alice Johnson.
First of all, thank my Lord and Savior,
Thank God.
Jesus Christ. Without him, I can do nothing. But with him, I can do everything. I want to thank President Donald John Trump. Woo!
Thank you.
Thank you. For giving me another chance in life and restoring me to my family. Where's Kim, my war angel?
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. And I want to I have so many people to thank. I'm just so thankful. I feel like my life is starting over again. This is a miracle day, the most unexpected thing to happen to me in my life. And
Well, her life is starting over again. And I think the important thing is we look at this. You know, we had Jim Acosta openly mocking Kim Kardashian for taking an interest in this. And
I just want to say this, David. This should send a loud message to the NFL players on the Philadelphia Eagles who refuse to go to the White House. Because if they were that concerned about police brutality in the black community, talk to them. You've got a chance to talk to the President of the United States, but you refuse to go?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy could be talked to. I mean, look what happened. This is the result. And these guys had that opportunity, and they blew it.
That's right. Yeah, if they really want to do something. Their issue is police brutality. We all want to see police brutality change, okay? You have institutions that are constantly going to be either reforming or you're going to embrace the corruption. You know, when you got somebody that's corrupt or a bad actor in an institution, like Frank Serpico said, you got to purge them out, or the institution itself becomes corrupt and increasingly corrupt. So we all want to see prison reform. You know, they always like to play these statistical games. We can say there's more white people that are brutalized by the police, and that's true, but it's a greater percentage of black people that are brutalized. Both of those things are true. So why can't we come together and say, let's stop that? The brutality is the issue, not the color.
And the thing is, David, first of all, it's wonderful being here in Austin, Texas.
Glad you
with
could come.
My brother, and with this brother right here, Darren McBreen. Let me say the bottom line is that it continues to be this divide and conquer game.
Yeah.
Okay. It continues to be. I've got to say, when I saw the clip that you showed of this woman running to her family, and who did that?
Yeah.
President Donald J. Trump.
That's right.
All right. It's time for us to wake up.
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of being used, manipulated, played off by these lunatics, these maniacs of the so-called Democrat Party, when we should be coming together. And Darren made an excellent point with respect to the NFL. The NFL should learn from this.
Yeah.
Okay? Learn from this. We have someone that we can talk with. We're not asking you to agree. We don't need robots. And I think that this is yet another instance of where President Trump has shown himself to be open, to be a true human. You know, it excites me. I'm delighted. As we said back in the day, oh, power to the people.
Well, you know, it's one of the things Kim Kardashian's husband, Kanye West, had been saying, you know, they misconstrued his statements about slavery, just like they misconstrued President Trump's joke about 1812. Didn't you guys burn down the White House in 1812? Whatever. But it's 1814. But anyway, the bottom line is what he was talking about was being slaves on a Democrat plantation, saying the Democrats own you. You can't talk to President Trump because he's on a different plantation. He, we're your master. You can't go straight to him. And they broke that paradigm, he and his wife, Kim.
But this is also about who controls the narrative. And we know that it's mostly the left controls Hollywood. They control the movies. They control the music industry. They control most of the news that we watch. And look at Roseanne as an example. The headlines were, and if you didn't look into it, if you didn't read past the headlines, this is what the headlines say. Roseanne tweeted racist remarks about a black Obama aide, right? She doesn't look too black to me. Roseanne didn't even know she was black.
Yeah.
But if you don't read beyond the headlines, and this was verbatim, just hundreds and hundreds of publications, late night talk shows, late night comedy. And so the average person just, wow, I didn't know Roseanne was racist. Really, a black Obama aide? Wow, that's horrible.
When I talked about that, I said, most people don't know that Obama is white. I mean, he is white, he's CIA, and he's more CIA than he is white or black, okay?
Well, and you and I always called him the ghost president because he might as well be a Manchurian candidate or whatever. Well, he's got such a mysterious past, a shady resume, shady past, and Larry, he really suffered from going against Obama, being part of the left. He used to have speaking engagements on a regular basis at colleges, and they just stopped talking to him.
He got the Roseanne treatment.
He got the Roseanne treatment.
The Roseanne treatment.
Pretty much. Or the Uncle Tom. You know, how many times have you heard that? So how dare he goes against Obama, but he just didn't agree with Obama's policies. And what did Obama do for the black community?
Oh, my God.
Zilch.
Zilch, zero, nada, nothing. And let me say, quite frankly, that it's imperative to understand. Let me jump back to Kanye West for a moment. Let me paraphrase a quote by none other than Harriet Tubman, who said, "I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew or accept or recognize that they were slaves." Slaves.
So true today.
That's even more true today.
And they don't know that they don't think about the fact that they're completely held captive by this political affiliation, and they won't break out of that paradigm.
The Democratic plantation is what they call it.
So you got Jim Acosta, who trolls Kim Kardashian and makes fun of it, and yet here's Jim Acosta on a regular basis coming after President Trump for all kinds of, what are you eating? Are you eating the wrong diet? Or what? All kinds of trivial nonsense. He could ask him questions about prison reform. He could ask him stuff that is of substance. But no, it's Kim Kardashian who goes there and asks the questions of substance. And so I put out a poll. I said, who has more credibility, Jim Acosta or Kim Kardashian? And it was like 90-10 in favor of Kim Kardashian. And that was before this happened, before the actual pardon went through.
Wow.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about what is really in view here in terms of prison. And we've got another quote from Alice Johnson that is very, very touching, talking about what kept her going after getting a lifetime prison sentence for a non-violent crime. Welcome back. I'm David Knight, and we're here with Darren McBreen and Larry Pinckney. And I assume that our audience knows Larry Pinckney, a man who needs no introduction, but I should have introduced him. We were just scrambling to try to get all the different microphones hooked up here, adding 2 additional guests during the break, and things came in pretty quickly. But of course, you write on blackactivistwg.org, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And Larry was one of the original people in the original Black Panther Party, distinguished, and he makes it very clear that they're very different from the new Black Panther Party. And he knows all about the FBI COINTEL programs and so forth, and we've talked about that many times. Today we're talking about Alice Johnson, and we're going to talk about prison reform. But before we do, I want to play one more clip of Alice Johnson, who was pardoned by President Trump after her case was presented to President Trump by Kim Kardashian, breaking the control, the domination of the Democrat Party. As Darren pointed out and Larry pointed out in the last segment, the idea that the NFL players or the NBA players don't even want to go to talk to President Trump. Well, you know, you can have some influence. You've got an opportunity here to talk to the president. You don't want to talk to him about some issue that's important to you? I mean, Jim Acosta and CNN aren't going to bring up any important issues. If you want prison reform, if you want police reform, if you want some other issues, something like that done, you're not going to get that kind of question asked by CNN or by the establishment media. They're not going to ask it in person. They're not going to ask it in the debates when we're having our elections. So you got an opportunity to talk to the president. Why wouldn't you take that? And so you have Kanye West saying, we're not going to be the slaves of the Democrat Party. We're not going to be on their plantation. We're going to talk to them. And Kim Kardashian goes there, talks to them about prison reform. So we're going to talk about prison reform, what that's going to hopefully look like. But let's have one more clip here from Alice Johnson. She went on Fox News with Martha McCollum, and here's what she had to say.
My message to President Trump is thank you so much, President Trump, for taking the time to really look at my case and to really look at me. And as I've said before, I promise you, President Trump, I will make you proud that you gave me that second chance. And I tell Kim, keep your passion. I believe that what she is seeing happen for me is really stirred something even more up in her, a desire to help people, as she said, one person at a time.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was funny. You said that one of the things that shocked you the most when you got out was how much people were looking at their phones. I thought, that's a bit of a big change since you were away, right?
Yes. Yes.
But good thing Kim Kardashian was looking at her phone, because I think that's how she found you.
That
Alice,
is exactly how she found me.
Thank you so much, Alice. We really wish you
let's
all
hold it
the
right
best.
there. Okay, so
That's not all that's changed.
You got that right.
She's in a different world.
yeah, wait till you see what else is on the phone. But you know that she became a minister in prison. She's 63 years old now. She's been in jail for 21 years. And she said the thing that got her through all of that was her faith in Christ. You know what? Maybe Kim Kardashian got her out of prison. Maybe she can break Kim Kardashian's bondage to celebrity and the rest of the things that are out there. You know, she might be able to give her some good lessons in life as well. But as President Trump tweeted out, good luck to Alice Johnson. Have a wonderful life. She now has a new life there. But we've got tens of thousands of people who are still in jail, like this lady, given a life sentence because of the mandatory minimum structure that was set up in the early days of the war on drugs during Reagan's administration. And based on the quantity of something that you're doing, the quantity of pot you might have, you might get 10 years, even though it's nonviolent, even though you've never had a speeding ticket in your life, you're going to go to jail for 10 years, or you might go to jail for life in this particular case. Why are we warehousing so many people in prison that are nonviolent? I just don't understand.
Part of it's a prison industrial complex. I mean, there's money to be made.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
also the prison industrial complex, that also includes the police. And, of course, they're making a great deal of money with civil asset forfeiture. You know, that's the profit motive. Again, not only the private prisons and the expansion of prisons, and they were, as they instituted these mandatory minimum programs under Reagan, they were putting so many people in prison so quickly that they were having to let out violent offenders at the time. That was the thing that amazed me. It's like, I'm looking at this, and I, as I tweeted out, I said, okay, let's do the prison reform. Let's end the mandatory minimums and stuff. And if you don't have compassion for people like Alice Johnson, after looking at her, then just think of all the money that you're being taxed to pay to warehouse these people in cells. I mean, that's absolutely incredible to me that we're paying all of that money, and that the early days of this, they're letting out violent criminals. And you still have violent criminals who aren't serving life sentences. I mean, people who commit murder, people who commit rape, they get out. But this lady was going to be in for her entire life if President Trump hadn't intervened. And it's time that we intervene structurally to get tens of thousands of people like her out of jail.
And I think that's the point. Structurally, that's what we have to do. I always say that this is about, or should be about, systemic change, okay? It's all this chopping at the branches. No. We need to go right to the root. And I want to take the opportunity right now to say this. You didn't know I was going to say this, David, but there are a lot of political prisoners in the U.S., and we need to be real about that.
Yes.
And as such, we have got to go to the heart of the matter. We have political prisoners, black, white, brown, red, and yellow, who are citizens of this country.
Yes.
Okay? We need to deal with that. I just wanted to throw that out very quickly.
Oh, as a matter of fact, yeah, I've talked many times to the mother of Ross Ulbricht, who was running Silk Road. And again, this is tangential to the war on drugs, because he was running a website that would allow people to buy drugs in the safety of their home. They would be able to do ratings so that they would know the different vendors if they're putting out contaminated stuff, because a lot of people will get buy drugs on the street. If they don't suffer violence, they will get something that is contaminated or of a intensity unknown, and they can die of overdose or die of a contaminant or whatever. But that aside, the way that they came after him, because he was running a website where people could buy drugs, because they were using cryptocurrency and there was some anonymity in that, they came after him and gave him I think it's 3 life sentences that he is serving. So he will never get out. No possibility for parole. He never hurt anybody. There were rumors that were put out in the press about murder for hire. He was never even charged with that. Yet the judge brought that up at the trial as if he had been charged and convicted, and used that, even though he was never charged with a crime, never stood trial for that, used those accusations, those allegations from people, like CNN or whatever, used those allegations to get him those 3 life sentences. And as we saw with the Bundys, they excluded witnesses that would be exculpatory. They had government agents that were running that website, stole nearly $1 million, and they wouldn't let the jury be informed of that. So you have all kinds of things like that are happening. Like you point out, political prisoners, people that are put in jail because they get at a point of control that the government thinks is very important.
That's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
No.
You go ahead. I'll hop on.
I didn't mean to cut you off. But I was just thinking how Dinesh D'Souza, Tommy Chong, Larry Pinckney. Tommy Chong was another victim. And just think about who the FBI is going after right now. Why isn't Hillary Clinton facing prison?
Right.
That's right.
So it really starts from the top. And Larry was a victim of COINTELPRO, and this was back in the 60s. And we had we got obtained his through a Freedom of Information Act request, the FBI profile on him. And the reason it said right there in the Freedom of Information request and the official FBI profile on Larry Pinckney, the reason why he was a threat was because of his ability to unite people of all color.
Yeah.
That's what made him such a threat. And they were doing whatever they could to neutralize him. And because and this is what we always talk about, because they want a nation divided. And this is of course, there's a lot of good people in the FBI, there's a lot of good people in the CIA, a lot of patriotic people, but at the very top, they are as corrupt as it gets. As corrupt as it. And they always have been. And the CIA from the very beginning.
That's right.
So I think
it didn't start with Comey. It started with the guy who created the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover.
No, and the thing is, I don't think we're going to have total justice in this country until it begins at the top.
Yeah, that's right.
We got a lot of work to do.
That's right.
That's right.
But this is a beginning. And so let's hope that the joy that we've seen with Alice Johnson, who had turned her life around, who had never harmed anybody, no violence involved there. Again, this was a war on drugs crime. And you know what? The war on drugs itself is a crime. It's a crime against the Constitution, against the 10th Amendment, against the 18th Amendment, as it illustrates. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm David Knight here with Larry Pinckney and Darren McBreen. We've been talking about the case of Alice Johnson, hoping that this is going to be expanded into broader prison reform. Before we go back into our discussion, I just want to remind you of the sales that we have at InfoWarsStore.com. We've got many, many products, a couple of dozen, that we have 50% off and free shipping store-wide. So we have everything from Brain Force Plus to the Super Blue dental products to Silver Bullet. Many, many products, our most popular products, 50% off and free shipping store-wide. So take a look at the products we have there. We really do appreciate and need your support. That's what keeps this program on the air. It's what keeps us free and independent. But I want to get back to what we were talking about just before the break, and that was the FBI. As you mentioned, Darren, Larry, you were a target of the FBI's COINTEL program. And I think it's interesting because we've seen Alan Dershowitz, who has always been a hardcore liberal, a real liberal, who's really concerned about the rule of law and so forth. And he has been really coming to the defense of President Trump with this Mueller investigation, saying we don't want to criminalize our political differences. And he said, what's the matter with the left? Here are these people who have always been skeptical of the FBI and so forth. He said they've become the biggest sycophant cheerleaders to these people. They used to oppose things like the FBI COINTEL program, where they would infiltrate groups and so forth. And here they're doing this to President Trump. And they're cheerleading that because it's their political enemy.
That's right. And, quite frankly, I have to call it what it really is. It's a 21st century mild form of fascism. Yeah. Let's call it what it really is.
That's right.
Okay? The so-called Democrat Party so-called liberals, so-called progressives have made a mockery of all that they supposedly stand for. Okay, and about this, Dershowitz he's correct. He's correct. You're going to.
And he's been ostracized now, just like you've been ostracized by people for your support of Trump, because you support the rule of law. They've thrown him out because they don't want the rule of law.
They're hypocrites.
Yeah.
They're absolute hypocrites. And we cannot, as a people, as a country, as a nation, whether you like the president or not, that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is we are a sovereign nation, one people, and the rule of law. We have a Constitution and a Bill of Rights. Let's utilize it. I get a little passionate, sorry, but it just really, really irks me when I look at the so-called left and they're showing themselves to be fascists, just straight up fascists in the name of bashing President Trump. That is not acceptable.
And it's totally 1984, George Orwellian, because they say they're the anti-fascists in the process. Like, wait a minute. You guys are acting like the fascist here. I was just thinking, how insane is the left when, just an example, Bill Clinton is speaking publicly on behalf of the Me Too movement, and he gets heckled. And if somebody says something, you know, what was the guy say? Hey, what happened on those flights with Epstein, 27 logged flights on the Lolita Express? And everybody boos this guy. But I'm just thinking that's the political climate of today. Let's say Bill Clinton is somewhere on behalf of the Me Too movement. If somebody stands up and says, Bill Clinton is a rapist, and he will get heckled to death, the people in the crowd, boo, get out of here, get out of here. And it's crazy because he really is a serial rapist, and he should be the guy that they're supposedly up against.
Well, think about the media and how it has changed, because you got Ken Starr, who was supposedly the guy that was coming after Bill Clinton, and yet he ignored the sexual assault. He ignored the rape. He ignored all the corruption with Whitewater and all these different Clinton schemes and everything. And he goes after a consensual affair that he told a white lie about under oath, okay? And that becomes the basis for the attack because he didn't want to come after, he was controlled opposition. And you can see it in the fact that Ken Starr became Epstein's lawyer. Later, okay? And then for a Triple Crown, he defends the Baylor football players when he's president of Baylor after all that stuff. I mean, Ken Starr has been there at all these different junctions. But when we talk about the hypocrisy, that goes way back into the 90s as well, because you had Anita Hill, who was coming after Clarence Thomas because with a silly charge that was just a he said, she said, but it didn't rise above the level of just a silly comment, kind of like the Roseanne Barr comment, okay, wanted to keep him out of the Supreme Court. But then immediately, when shortly after after those the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas trial, if we want to call it that, then you have the Bill Clinton situation, and she supports Bill Clinton when he's accused of violent sexual assault and rape and all this kind of stuff, after accusing Clarence Thomas of some inappropriate workplace comment.
Well, somebody approached Maxine Waters with a hidden camera, and this is about a year ago. But she just kept saying Trump and the grab her by the you know what comment, right? So Maxine Waters was very offended by that, and the person with the hidden camera says, "What about Bill Clinton?" And she says, "I don't want to hear about Bill Clinton.
Right.
I don't want to hear about it." And it's like a little kid. Remember we were talking about it's like a little kid
not
goes,
listening.
It doesn't, not going to listen to anything you say. It is so childish, and it's really amazing. Here we got Bill Clinton logged on this 27 or so flights, somewhere around 27 flights on the Lolita Express. Oh, he's just going to go there and play checkers with the guy? I mean, come on. We know. In fact, he would escape from his security detail, act like he's going to the bathroom, and the guys are like, "Oh my God, we lost him again."
Maybe that's where you got the idea for the book, "The President is Missing." Have you guys seen it? We don't know where he is.
Well, it's. I'm so glad you brought that up, Darren. And by the way, I want to say something to Sister Roseanne Barr. You know what, Roseanne? We love you. We respect you. We understand where you're coming from. There would have been no Lenny Bruce. Yeah. There would have been no George Carlin. There would have been no Richard Pryor. Okay? Had it not being an open society. Okay, this PC, this political correctness is nothing but censorship. And
It really is.
Roseanne, I think you'd be surprised to know how many people just love you. And thank you, by the way, for years ago coming out in support of our dear sister, Cynthia McKinney. Thank you, Roseanne.
Yeah, and of course, as George Carlin said, it's just political correctness is just fascism masquerading as good manners, right? and it would shut down, add to that list, it would shut down Mel Brooks, it would shut down Monty Python. You couldn't do comedy. What about Don Rickles? I mean, his whole shtick was
great.
ripping
And
people
I'm thinking
apart.
George Jefferson and Archie Bunker. I mean, those were the good old days, you know?
Yeah.
And we just lost that. Everybody's walking on eggshells, afraid they're going to offend somebody. And you know what? Because you slip up, you say the slightest thing.
No, it's okay if you're leftist. Okay.
That's perfectly fine.
That's right. Michelle Wolf, as all this was happening to Roseanne Barr, Slate comes out and says Michelle Wolf is her best when she's her most vicious.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they are vicious, man.
Yeah.
They are nasty. I mean, you know, what's her name with the severed head?
Kathy Griffin.
Kathy Griffin. That's acceptable.
Yeah, yeah. Everything is available there. Well, you know, when we look at breaking this paradigm, going back to where we started with Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, taking a lot of hits from people saying, don't even talk to President Trump, but they get a lady freed who should not be in jail. Certainly, it's a waste of taxpayers' money, but it is a waste of her life. And as we're looking at prison reform here, we've got 45% of black Americans are concerned about immigration because they say their neighborhoods are much, much worse under it. They don't necessarily want to live next to MS-13. And if you don't have a border wall, these people who are trying to escape from El Salvador, this guy way up where my wife came from in Long Island. We thought we'd escape this, and they followed us up here and killed my kid. Okay, because if you got an open border, you can't, you know, the bad guys are going to come through with the good guys. So what do you think this is going to do? Is he going to get, certainly I think this is going to help President Trump as this opens up things for him, working with Kim Kardashian on this, maybe on prison reform, but also the immigration issue.
And I have to call it what it is. The vast majority of these folks are not immigrants. An immigrant follows the law.
That's right.
All right? When you follow the law of the country that is your host country, you don't come in and break the law immediately, even upon entering. They are migrants.
They're foreign citizens criminally trespassing.
Exactly. Yeah. I like that. That's very good. It's
and anybody that's providing a sanctuary city for them, they're criminals as well.
That's right.
I don't care what the courts say.
And they're hurting. Look, how can a country... this is just common sense. How can a country be a nation, a sovereign nation, that does not control its borders?
That's right.
And I just want to point this out, too, that the United States, the left always says the U.S. government is racist and insensitive. The United States government takes more migrants, refugees, and immigrants than all other countries combined.
That's right. Well, people in Europe understand what this is about. And it is blowing back against them so much that George Soros says, let's pull this back. Okay, he's telling his fellow elitists, maybe we need to slow walk this. The water is boiling so quickly, we've turned the temperature up so rapidly, the frogs are waking up. Thank you for joining us, Larry.
Thank you.
And Darren.
Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. If you're interested in healthy thyroid, if you're interested in well-being, if you're interested in having a higher IQ, which this has been linked to, get your powerful Survival Shield X2 at InfoWarsStore.com.